Last week, we ended the podcast with a challenge because the chapter title was Make One Room in Your House as Beautiful as Possible. And Dad was talking about decorating his room in 3 time. So who completed the task? Because we were going to make something for him. Should we leave Jaden and Charlotte for last?
I didn't complete it well, but I completed it.
Yeah, I'll start off because it's probably the most pathetic one. Is
Let me go first then.
I forgot to tell Bonnie to do this, Dad, until today. So I had a great idea, and I still may do it, but it's not done yet. I haven't even started it. But today I asked Bonnie to do something. So you said you wanted a piece of art that could speak to you.
A microphone.
So what we did is we got something that can speak to you. Wait, hold on. This way. Can speak to you. And Bonnie's kissed it, and Sammy's kissed it, and I'm the rest.
There.
And we got a little bit of nougat as well. So you can,
thank you. That's going to make my room look beautiful.
That's not going to last on the wall at all.
So sorry for that pathetic attempt, but at least you got a little bit of Sammy goodness out of it. That's our cheap trick.
Something to speak to you. That's very clever. I like that.
Do you want to see mine?
So we thought long and hard about this, and we got our minions our art team together, Judah and Isaac. So this is from Judah. This is the Ender King.
I thought it was me.
And Ike and Judah.
Okay.
Brilliant.
That's beautiful.
And then I asked Ike to draw something. I don't know if you can see that, but that's Newton's cradle.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And he drew that.
Ike did that.
Yeah, Ike did that.
I love the person.
How does he know about Newton's cradle?
I teach him science, Sean.
There
We
you
go to
go.
a very good school.
So if you want some meaningful art, the next generation, what Dad's inputting, that means a lot more than just kisses.
That's brilliant. So is this
Right.
Mum's?
I don't know if you can see that.
Whoa.
Whoa, fighting a dragon.
Yeah,
Wow. Who did that?
I did.
You did it.
Yeah,
Does that speak to you?
yeah. It's all about Jordan Peterson slaying the dragon. Coming out of the cave, your order, fighting the chaos,
Now mine looks bad.
getting the reward.
Come on.
Yeah. Who cares about Newton's cradle now?
That's beautiful.
Ike does.
How did
Did you really do that, Dad?
Yeah. It's a wood transfer from a printout. I did.
Cool.
It was a bit of a rush because Charlotte reminded me this morning, so I didn't really leave the glue on long enough, and it's gone a bit. But maybe it adds character, or maybe I'll do it again properly.
Makes it look cooler. I like it more.
I thought you painted that. I was like, wowzers, Dad's gonna.
That's what I'm going to tell people.
Oh.
If you probably can't see it in this light, but the dragon's tail is actually in the background, so it's encircling the guy it wants to slay him.
I'll take some photos and we'll put them up on screen. Jay, Charlotte?
Me.
I'll share yours. Oh.
Oh, did you do one, Mom?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you were in the podcast last week. I'm sorry. I thought the previous one you went.
Oh, that's cute.
You smile.
Where'd you get that from? Did you make it today?
I made it today.
My first car was a VW Volkswagen 1957 was its make. I got it when I was 16 years old.
And it was white, like this
It
one.
was white, Herbie.
That's sweet. It's like
Yeah.
Turkey.
But that one's got all its wheels on. My wheel often came off.
That's brilliant.
Hmm.
I didn't know that was your first car.
Yeah. Had to park it on a hill because the VW 1957 only had a 6-volt battery. I mean, you had to light a candle to see if the light.
Can you guys see?
Jaden's hands.
Yeah, that's my art piece. So I tried to do some charcoal drawing, and I used about 4 or 5 pages. And then I realized how dirty my hands were. I got Charlotte to take a picture of that. And I thought this looked way better than my child.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I like it because they're kind of like your hands in a way, because you gave them to me. And they're working. Which is kind of what you implemented in us. So I like it.
I like it too.
That's beautiful, Dave.
Very nice.
All right.
Can you tell everyone about your GIF?
That reminds me of Harry's song that he wants to.
Just
leave the
ready for?
world with your hands.
Can't really see.
Wow.
A galaxy.
Yes.
Wow,
I think.
it's crazy.
Nice.
Space travel.
Hyperloop.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Did you
Charlotte.
paint that?
Yes.
It's kind of a flower galaxy.
That's beautiful.
Flower galaxy. I just thought, because you're a massive geek and you really like the space and the physics and the biology and the chemistry. So I
Yeah.
think you may like that.
Fantastic. Thank
That
you.
is so
That's
special.
very special.
Thank you.
I have to get it all. Can't just leave
Do they
one of
all
them.
speak to you?
Even
Which one, Dad?
both.
Straight
Am I
up.
picking a winner?
I can imagine, Seamus, you're going to go drag your kids out of bed, wake them up, put them on the screen. Your art picked.
Look at him. He put all his effort into this.
How did you remember?
So, Dad, you got some art that can speak to you?
Yeah.
I'm sure you got a lot of choices there.
Yeah.
And we'll show some photos on screen of you putting them up in your office.
I have to get rid of that rugby shirt.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
a nice piece of art.
Do we get
That's
to
great.
say goodbye for real this time?
No, we're going to kick off the podcast. Enjoy podcast 9, peeps. Welcome to the 9th episode in the Whaleys discussing Jordan Peterson's Beyond Order. The name of this chapter is Rule 9. If old memories still upset you, write them down carefully and completely. I don't know, has anyone felt like they've had a rough life or difficult? I mean, we've all had difficult times and we've all gone through a measure of difficulty. No one lives in the ideal, but I don't feel any of us have had
Too straight.
amazingly difficult things.
We're too in your face.
so you
to-
could be
to have
straight,
that.
but still get bombed by the Syrian army. You know, there are
Yeah.
people that get
Yeah.
trauma through no fault of.
We all still get trauma from things, but because we talk, because we open, we are able to work through that. Anyway, I can. You're smiling.
I'm
No,
smiling
I-
because,
Yeah,
Go
I've
ahead.
had a very fortunate life. I think I've been really fortunate, blessed. Yeah, minor tribulations really
Mm.
of what could go wrong.
you say that, Dad, you were shipped off to boarding school. Your dad died when you were young. You fought in the army. Those aren't trivial things.
Mm.
Yeah, I managed to dodge all the bullets. That was fun.
So,
Then
I
you
mean,
don't-
this is not really about the chapter, but do you think that's something to do with our mentality and our ability, maybe, to persevere under difficulties that we don't? Because some people call difficulties the things that killed them or stopped them in their tracks. Perhaps we're the idiots who keep on going. Do you think that's? I'm not even trying to suggest that's the right comment. I'm just trying to think: is that a legitimate line of thinking?
It's hard to tell because I don't think we've had it that rough. But I know people that have had it easier than us that fall apart. You know what I mean? So I think we're quite robust, but have we really been tested? You know, have
Well-
we had to flee a country because, you know, bombs are falling and things like that? So
But Dad, you were blown up 3 times.
I was blown up once too.
I've never been blown up.
uh,
Most people haven't.
no, that's true.
I think
What?
If I was blown up 12 times, maybe it'd be difficult.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. But yeah, I've never felt it haunt me. I mean, it was traumatic and scary, and I've been in some very scary situations, but I've never felt it. Those kind of war type things, dangerous things. I've never felt that it's ever trapped me in a loop of some kind.
Did you sit and talk with your fellow soldiers or anything like that after those events?
Just a few swear words and wow, that was close, that kind of thing. But no, not psychological, deep thinking about it. No.
So you never like analyzed it, resolved it,
No.
transformed.
We were soldiers, man. We were.
no, but you did when we were in Omelo.
Yeah.
You went and sat with Helen.
Yeah.
And you talked about some of the trauma.
Yeah, there were some incidents where other people got hurt, which was traumatic for me. Innocence. So that was very traumatic for me. But no, we never talked about it beyond a few swear words or something.
It's probably not the appropriate time to try and psychoanalyze and get through it, get over your trauma or whatever, when you've got to go out the next day and potentially get shot at again.
Yeah, I guess.
No.
I guess, I don't know. We just didn't do it as comrades in the army. We just didn't go that way.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you could afford to. I don't think that would be the appropriate thing. But post-war, Dad, you must have had some times where you thought, oh, wow, that actually happened.
Yeah, there was one or two incidents where I felt guilty, but and I wasn't directly, it wasn't kind of my intention, but where things happened that I felt bad about, that not that I could do a lot about it, but I saw it, innocents getting hurt, and that was traumatic. Yeah. But yeah, which I talked about after I became a Christian and sorted that out.
So in some sense, without actually having to write it down, did you have to address it and go through the memory of that and approach it, look at it honestly?
Yes, I had to do that. It was more verbal and prayer, being helped by a couple of people who just let me talk through it and pray through it and see some perspective to it. Didn't actually change the events, but it just helped to talk about it. But I mean, we were talking 5 years after, maybe 7 years after the events, that I needed to do that. Yeah, and as a child, I had some trauma as well, which I had to also, around about the same time, have to talk through. Yeah.
Did you find that stuff had hindered you? Up until that point, did you find it was a blockage?
No, but it was a memory that would pop up every now and again. And I'm sure it probably made me a bit more reticent or shy or self-condemnatory, something like that. But it wasn't something that bugged me. I wasn't sleepless most of the time about it or anything like that. It just wasn't a nice memory to deal with. Yeah.
I think if I can just add that little bit as well, because we were in a war and we were in a war zone, because I was also blown up once. It's not that you build a resilience, but I think you live in a hope, and I think you live with a more of a measure of how bad life can be, or how your life can just be gone in a second, that you live with more gratefulness, and that you live with more hope, and you live with more straightforwardness. You take every day at a time. I think that this is one of the reasons why I don't want to watch people beating each other in those cage fight things that you guys love, is because I just see that it's ridiculous to be hitting each other, two people to be hitting each other when their lives could be in a much more terrible situation. I just don't want to entertain that. To me, life is valuable. It's precious.
To be fair, Mom, we let that entertain us.
I know, and it's a guy sport and it's a guy thing, but that's one of the reasons why I don't like anything like that, is because I saw such harshness and hurt. I don't want to see that anymore. So if that's an effect on me, then I think it's a positive effect on me.
They get paid well. They do it voluntarily.
I know.
They're not like gladiators that are slaves.
You don't have to try and defend whatever you're saying. It's just, that's my personal feeling, is when you've seen those things, you don't want to
I'm just gonna know.
do it again, Don't like that stuff.
So the first subtitle of the chapter is, but is yesterday finished with you? So I think Jordan Peterson makes the point that you may be finished with yesterday, but it can haunt you. And the next chapter subtitle is called Do Not Fall Twice into the Same Pit. And his point, which Jaden, I've heard you say this and reference this many times. He talks about you got to know where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. And you've got to have some sort of roadmap and some plan. And if you don't recognize some of the stuff that you've been through and where you've been, then you may fall prey to the same trap again, or the same abuse, or this falling into this. You might abuse someone else in the same way a second time. And have any of us felt like we've been in those positions where we fall into the same pit? Where you've done something like, oh man, I didn't want to do that. And I did that before and I don't want to do that again. Or, I mean, personally, I've let people take advantage of me for several rounds, and I've had to get better at not, because I want to do nice things for people and I want to help people, but I fall into the trap a fair amount of times in my life where I've allowed people to take advantage. And it's not their fault, it's my fault, because I've chosen to do that. And I've had to learn to say the N-word, to say no. I've had to learn to stand up for myself, to value myself, all of those things. I haven't really done it by writing it down. And I don't know if that's because I'm arrogant and I don't have a value for what Peterson says, or maybe it's not serious enough. But I do feel like, I think for all of us, for all of the Whaleys, we do have a good system of processing and addressing these sort of things. I don't think, this could be delusional, but I don't think we will let those things eat away at us and then just put them to one side. We will, at least it'll escape through frustration or anger or something, and then we'll deal with it, right?
Yeah,
and you guys had any of those encounters?
I think the writing it down thing is just an idea, because he puts one of his patients into a trance. It's not writing it down, but it's a way to analyze. So I'd say I normally do that through conversation, either with the person I have an issue with, or with Charlotte or Nikki or Keith, some sort of conversation to analyze it. He breaks it down into, if something doesn't go well, analyze, resolve, apologize, repent, and transform.
Brilliant.
So I think the writing it down is the analysis of that's the starting point. But to your question, yeah, for sure, you fall into the same pit multiple times, especially if you're hiding stuff in the fog. So if you're not gonna look at something, like I used to lie all the time, and I would never write that down or discuss it with someone because I'm lying, right? So of course you're gonna fall into that same pit continuously, because you're not addressing it, you're not analyzing it, and you're not seeing the full extent of how bad it is and how it could change and how you could transform away from that. So I would say, yeah, 100% falling into the same pit all the time.
I think everybody does. It's only when we've banged our heads enough times that we then stand up and say, okay, I'm going to take charge now. I'm not going to do that again.
Can I ask a controversial question? So I've heard it preached that once you become born again Christian, all things are passed away. Behold, all things become new, Corinthians says. And that you don't have to worry about all of that past stuff because you're brand new. Just start from there. From what Peterson's saying, would that circumvent that necessity to deal with things that haunt you, or will they just stop haunting you automatically? What do you guys think?
What do you think?
Well, I know I became a Christian, I was still haunted. So for me personally, that's how it worked. But could it work?
Maybe you were never saved, Dad.
Maybe I'm
you
not
were never
properly saved, just partially, just half my brain.
Isn't there a difference between when you receive Christ, your sins are forgiven on God's end?
Yeah.
Your life is still a mess. You still need to work out your salvation. You still need to walk through all the abyss, as Jordan Peterson calls it, the darkness, the desolation. So I think one is God's end and the other is our end. And yeah, I like how he frames it, because like that maps of meaning, he talks about you need to know where you are and where you're going, where you come from. And you don't know where you are unless you've looked back and you've absolutely gone through where your location is. Because a lot of us can be in delusion. We think that we're okay. We think, we've got blind spots. But yeah.
If you know where you've been,
see.
you might have been over some shallow rocks and you're taking on water. It doesn't matter where you think you're going.
Yeah.
Do you know just an experience that I had when we were in Ermelo?
Good point.
We had left our family, and our family was very, I won't say confrontational because that's not the right word, but we were very open and just straight up shoot from the hip, deal with issues, whatever. And we moved to Ermelo, and we had a lot of this witchcraft playing around in the church that we were in, and with the couple that were leading it. A lot of stuff going on, which we didn't understand in those days. We didn't really know what, we were still trying to be good and trying to please everyone. And you sort of lose who you are and you lose what you are. And I remember going back to Zimbabwe after about 1.5 years of being there. Hey? And I got back into honesty and straightforwardness and just how I was raised. And I remember realizing how affected we can be by the influences of other people. I was actually talking to Tom about this today, Sean. We have all these ideologies invade us when we're young adults, and we have other people's influences and all that stuff. And it's so refreshing to go back to what is just straight and open and direct. It's very refreshing. And so I think, like with you saying with Jordan Peterson, where are you? Where are you headed? We need to know where we've come from and what we stand on. So like, if you come from a very strong family or a set family, I think that's an easier walk for you than someone who's come from chaos.
There's a case to be made for that, but I think from some people that I've met have come from absolute chaos, broken families, wanting to be aborted, like mums wanting to abort them, non-existent fathers, poverty, extreme pressure, homelessness. And I've met we've all know somebody who's been through something. And sometimes those sort of people confronting the chaos in their lives and moving beyond it despite the chaos, in some sense makes them better. Yeah. Because they know how to get through and navigate and deal with and confront. And I've been thinking a lot this week about playing the game. And often we say, oh, you're just playing a game. It means it's actually a derogatory thing, the way that we use, oh, you're just playing a game. But actually, the way Peterson sets games up is you play games as a kid. And he talks about hierarchies as a game that you got to play. You got to climb the hierarchy before you can transcend it. You got to, there's rules to this thing. And watching Sammy playing games is the building block for him then learning to articulate things and think through things. And it's going to be the building block for future things. And so people who have learned to confront chaos have learned to play that game. And often people who have not had chaos and haven't come from strong backgrounds or whatever, they learn to play the game better, I would say. It's
You
like
think so?
the
You really
rich
think so?
princess who's always had money, never had poverty, hardship. Then all of a sudden she comes into a place where she's now going to make her own way, and she doesn't have the cash from daddy's credit card all of a sudden. Now the rubber hits the road. Can she handle it? And she'll cry and break down the first time she can't buy the Versace handbag or whatever that is.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I'm not saying that everybody who comes from a strong background, for whatever advantages that they have, doesn't have a skill set and know how to play the game. And I'm not saying everybody who comes from a bad background does have a skill set. What I'm saying is there's a case to be made that it's your willingness and then your ability, which you grow over time, your experience in that ability, how consistent you are with that ability to confront chaos and to play the game.
Yeah.
I think that's more important than where you've come from. We all know, Dudley Daniel used to say, it's more important what you're getting in the church context, more important what you're getting saved into than where you've come from, what you're getting saved out of. And I think I've met some people who've got all the advantages, all they do complain, and they hide and they don't tell the truth. And
Because they've never had hard times.
nice.
Well, just because they do. Hard times or no hard times, you get those.
So then what about the person that has come from very set, straightforward, open, honest family background, and they go into a situation of complete chaos? I've seen people thrown over with that and
That's
drowned
exactly what I'm saying.
because they've never had that. They
That's
don't know how
exactly
to
what
deal
I'm
with it.
saying. Sometimes you get a strength from being in tough positions. Yeah, like I didn't know this until we started hydroponics, Dad, and we did our reading, and you did the actual work, and I did my reading. Where actually one of the best way to get a crop yield is at certain times in the cycle of growing plants, you starve them of resources, and you can exponentially increase the yield of the crop by giving them difficulties, less water or less nutrients or whatever.
Well, the tobacco farmers in Zimbabwe did that with their tobacco. To get good tobacco, they wanted a couple of week drought. It helped the tobacco a lot. It put the roots deeper.
Yeah.
And so they were more resilient to the coming and going of rains.
So anyway, the point I'm trying to make in a very long, complicated, unclear way is I think it's more important. Do you choose to face the dragon? Do you choose to face the abyss and conquer it? And at the end of the chapter, he talks about his words, and we'll get into that later. But do you choose to stand up to that and face it, no matter what your past is? Are you choosing to face in that direction and conquer it? And I think a little kid with no history, no experience can choose to do the right thing. And that's the case that Peterson makes, I think in the second or third last subheading, is that actually it's so prevalent across cultures and even religions that we understand that there's a right path and a wrong path. And he actually, without mentioning Romans 7, he almost word for word quotes Romans 7 at one point, which is, I do the thing I don't want to do, and then I can't do the thing that I do want to do. And I kept on thinking about Romans 8, which begins with, therefore now there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, which I think is part of the answer to your question you were asking, Dad. But we understand, I think at a deep level, at a very fundamental level, humans understand that there's a right way and there's a wrong way. And it's the people who choose, whether they can do it or not, it's just the attempt to choose to do it the right way that I think is honorable. And whether you're the princess or the pauper, if you choose to do it the right way, that is credible. And we all recognize it.
Yeah.
He also talks about that scripture says, ask and you'll receive, seek and you'll find, knock and the door will be opened unto you. I use that scripture just to get our boys to ask before they take something from us. But essentially the deeper part of that scripture is he unpacks it and he basically says you need to really delve into things. It's not just words, it's actions, because you're knocking and It's not just, it's not vanity's sake that you are asking. It's not frivolous. It's a searching deep down, which we know biblically that's people hungry for God. But essentially, he's saying in the psychological level, you've got to delve into things and really ask yourself, be vulnerable with the past.
And humble, yeah.
Humble.
Yeah,
I think we can do that with different aspects of our lives. Like Sean was saying, how far down the road, where are we going? I think we can be very behind in some areas and very in front in others. Because there's some things I'll really work at and there's other things I don't bother. I know they're there, but I don't bother.
Did anyone ever come across the word somatization before this chapter? Because I had to go and look it up.
What does it mean, Dad?
I kind of knew what he was talking about, so I figured this is what it meant. But somatization is the manifestation of psychological distress by the presentation of physical symptoms.
And in English?
It means you got something psychologically wrong, something wrong in the way you're thinking or whatever. And there'll be a physical thing. Like the one guy was trying to shake his shoulders the first time Peterson met him and doing all sorts of weird actions because he saw geometrical shapes he was trying to put in place. Or the other guy would not be able to get to sleep because he would just curl up in the fetal position. His arms would be all over the place. So there were physical manifestations because they were trying to deal with something psychologically traumatic.
We watch, Bonnie and I watch this, what does she call, the body language expert or something. And she will analyze famous speeches from politicians and celebrities and court cases and stuff. And it's funny, she'll say, so-and-so, he's feeling very tense right now. He's feeling the pressure. And she'll say that because he'll be tightening his lips. And it'll be, oh, look, he's doing this, he's clenching because he wants to say something, but he knows he shouldn't. So you're like, there's certain actions and facial features. And then you can see, okay, he's relaxing now, he's breathed out. And then do you see he forgot that he wasn't performing anymore. So he bit back into performance mode. And she'll just break down all these little actions over time, over the interview or whatever. And she doesn't go into the politics and she doesn't go into whether the person's right or wrong. She just reads the body language and it is phenomenal. So I think we all do that on a basic level, but I think once it gets to a certain point of escalation, it's like it's escaping beyond your own control almost.
Yeah.
Do you always say when somebody looks up to the left, you know they're lying?
What?
They go, then you know they're lying. I don't believe all of it.
Yeah.
There's another chapter heading called Uncomprehended Malevolence. What does that mean, Charlotte?
Oh, I was listening to it, so I don't know which subtitle it is.
It's I think the 1, 2, 3, fourth one.
To comprehend is to
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so uncomprehended is ununderstood.
Malevolence is like control and
Evil. So it's ununderstood evil.
It's basically what I just did to you.
Sneak attack.
One of the sections of this particular subsection, he talks about the fact that we can all do things we shouldn't do. We all have that capacity, and it's one of the most controversial things that I think Peterson has talked about. Jade, do you want to share a little bit about the thing about Nazis that Peterson talks about? He didn't discuss it, I think, in this chapter at all, but he has an interview.
In interviews, he said he spent years reading about the Nazis, and one of the main things he tried to do, which is a really difficult thing to do, is put yourself in the Nazi shoes. Imagine yourself, like what would it take you to do those things? And he spent, I've heard him say in interviews, he spent months and months thinking about that. What would it take for me to do what they did? And he actually recommends it to a few of the patients he references. Books about these normal, ordinary policemen that turn into these Nazi guards and the atrocities they can carry out. So yeah, I think a lot of what Peterson bases his points of view on is that understanding that the line between good and evil is drawn through every man's heart, which is the Solzhenitsyn quote. It's
Brilliant.
not about country or creed or any of those things. It's every person could be good or evil. And a lot of psychology and experiments back that up, that notion. So yeah, what else do you want on that?
How far is everyone away from doing the sort of stuff that Nazis did? I mean, I would imagine most people's reaction to that would be, no, never. I could never do that.
Yeah, the shocking experiment is something like 75% of people will keep shocking someone after they're presumed dead. So we're all on the precipice of that. And there's a lot of studies into the Nazis. I think they had like 3 main tactics, one of which was linking people and rodents together as an idea. So you dehumanize, and then you make it like it would be bad for your country if they weren't taken care of. So there's like 2 or 3 things that will get you to be a Nazi, essentially.
If you believe them.
If you believe them, and if you don't confront it at the beginning, if you don't speak truth at the beginning, when these things start to happen, you're in for a whole world of trouble down the line. Took Hitler, what, 3 years?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, no one confronted him. People endorsed him. The United Nations didn't confront him. They endorsed him. Yeah, if you don't confront that stuff at the beginning, there's a lot of trouble down the line.
Yeah.
I listened to a documentary about 6 months ago about Nazis, and these men were weeping and saying they knew that if they didn't do what they were ordered to do by killing people and putting them in gas chambers and things, that they would die themselves, and they needed to feed their families. And they said it was out of fear that they did those things. It wasn't because they wanted to, and they were traumatized and haunted for years afterwards for what they had done to people.
It's interesting. The accounts I've heard is they didn't even think of them as people. Like, I've read letters that Nazi guards sent back to their families, and they sound like the nicest, most caring fathers. They sound quite sweet. And these are Auschwitz guards. So I think they had so dehumanized the Jewish people that it wasn't something to be looked down on, you know? I think it was that bad, but I'm not sure.
I've seen that myself with, you know, coming from Africa with racism. I've seen that, and how people dehumanize. Oh, it's just disgusting. We saw some of that, didn't we?
Yep.
Just couldn't believe it.
Shams and Esther, do you see that in your kids? I mean, as I was saying, I'm like, no, but can you,
Are they Nazis?
you ever look at your kids, Judah and Isaac, and ever think, wow, that was bad what he just did there? And you see the potential, if that ever escalated and there was never discipline, that they could be.
They'll act on pure impulse. And you have to somehow make them realize, like, if you do that, you could kill someone. And if you killed them, that would be really terrible. Like, do you understand that? So instead of,
How do you get them to understand that?
I think the general principle, I think, that works really well is Jesus said, do unto others that you want them to do
honestly.
to you. It's such a golden rule, because if you say to a kid, do you want that to happen to you? They go, no. And then that's the starting point. They have to figure out,
Oh,
I've got to treat people the way I want to be treated.
a couple times when the kids were young, I would turn around and do the exact same thing right back to them that they just did to the other one. And they'd look at you in horror. You'd like slap them on the face or do something because they just didn't understand what they had just done. And I'd literally take the implement and smash them over the head with it. And they'd look at you. What? I said, that's what you just did to them. That hurts. They're like, oh, okay, that hurts. All right. And
Yeah, because
that
they
was
don't
quite
know.
effective at times.
Yeah.
Because I heard that from somebody that was training horses before. The horse bit her and she turned around and bit the horse back. The horse never bit her again. And I did that when the baby, one time the one baby bit me and I just flicked it really hard. And the baby got the shock of its life and never did that again. Never. So I think there is a place for that, like direct kind of like give it back. Obviously, as they get older, you have to get a little more complex than that. And you have to talk about it a bit. But when they're little, sometimes that's very effective.
You also have to give them time to unpack their emotions.
Yeah.
Because as adults, we can maybe a little bit more eloquently explain why we feel things. But especially the younger you are, you just feel this raw emotion and you're just unhindered emotion and you're just doing whatever action comes next. So it's an interesting thing because we run a school and we watch how different kids react with each other and often dealing with conflict. It's a very interesting process, taking them through and getting them to talk to each other. And on a number of situations, it could be a minor thing, but it's such a heightened emotion that kids go through. And then you realize this is prevalent in all ages. You can go to the UN and you can go to the Houses of Parliament, you can go to the top level, and people act exactly the same as little kids on this. Nothing changes. But we just a little bit more, I don't know, guarded about it. But you come across parents, you come across people in positions of authority, they still harbor things from their past and they're stunted and they can't see these things because they've, Jordan Peterson talks about his clients dealing with past issues. Things can really lock you up and you can be completely blind to it. But it's interesting with kids because it's not guarded. It's very open. It's very, everyone sees it, which makes me very happy to work with kids rather than adults because it's genuine, Sometimes, I give up hope with adults because it's really hard. It's really hard to change, adults, but it's a lot easier dealing with kids, I think.
But that book, like Lord of the Flies, I think is very accurate. Because if you just let if kids were not directed and you just get the raw, like evil would definitely come out.
There's a thin veil between civilization and chaos. There's a thin veil. And we saw that in the coronavirus when the shops are emptied from toilet paper and people in their houses with masks. And you think, how can people do that? How can they take in all these toilet rolls and masks and leave nothing for anyone else? But that's
survival.
That's what the thin veil of civilization looks like.
So I got 3 rounds of questions for each of us. First question is, would you all say that you are comfortable in your accuracy of knowing where you've come from? Like in your perceptions, would you say, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know where I come from, where the hiccups have been, where the regrets been, where the strengths have been?
I think so.
I think it's a constant work and journey. I think you're constantly looking back. Every new situation you're in and you deal with it, then you think, oh, how did I deal with that? Why did I deal with it that way? I'm constantly referencing like a map back to all sorts of things that led to that. I meet someone and they remind me of someone else. I'm now referencing, I'm referencing that map, referencing those people from my past again. So I think it's a consistent journey.
I don't know. For me, because Peterson have the self-authorizing suite or like questions, basically. So I did it. So the they got like 4 parts. One part is to deal with your past. So I actually did what he told me to, is to write down 10 terrible experience. And then I did it. So I think from that, it kind of helped to see like what makes me upset and why. So I really like the first part, like the first client that he has, saying she was being raped by a cousin. And then she now revisited the memory, and then she have a new perspective. So when I did that, I realized that like the one thing that hurts me the most is actually because I'm stupid. And like that guy is obviously a douchebag, and I still have emotional for him, like, because I feel so angry and hurt. But now I have overcome it, so I'm not gonna cry. So it's done and dealt. And then the other part is, what is the strength? Like what would you describe yourself as, and what is your strength? Then you have to, at that point, I look back into my life and try to see like, what am I actually interested in? Then I have a better picture. So I'm not like Jaden, constantly comparing back to before. But now I can, because now I have a fairly clearer picture.
Because
So
of
now
the
I can see.
self-authoring suite.
Yeah.
Would you recommend doing that course, Charlotte?
Yeah. Because that was really difficult for me when I first started doing it. The first part that I did is picturing your future, your ideal, basically where you want to go. So, and then the next part is your past, and then your future. And then I think the last chapter that I didn't do is called authorizing your past or something. So it's like, how do you deal with your shit or something like that. So it was quite funny because I have no clue at that point. So I was really struggling to put something down. But the fun part is he will tell you, you can write something out and then think about it and then rewrite. That's what he told his client to do. So I have to, until I really give that thing a thought, and like a deep one. Then I can move on to the next part. So I think it gives me like a chance to sort my life out, pretty much. Thanks to Jaden, he bought me that.
Did you do it too, Jay?
No, I just outsourced my problems to Peterson.
Got it. You still haven't done it.
I've got it, but I'm hiding it in the fog for now.
Shane, how are you guys with identifying where you're? I mean, how do you think you are with your perception of where you've come from?
I would say I'm pretty confident. Like you asked the question, how confident? I would say I'm pretty confident. I know where I came from. I was watching a video of a trip that we did to Italy before we even married, and I was watching myself on the screen, and I was looking at myself, and the student that I was showing it to, he said, "You haven't changed anything. You haven't changed one bit." And I think I have. I've got a lot fatter, but I will say that I think mostly because of mom and dad's hard work, I feel like I've gained so much, advantages in life because I feel confident. I remember when I finally came to Christ at 14 years of age, and my life completely changed. And I think I had every potential as a middle child, with all the middle child syndrome and issues, to go off the rails. I was convinced at a young age I was going to be a rebel, but that moment changed my life forever. And I feel like since then I've been pretty solid. Would you agree, Mom and Dad? I've been the best kid of the three.
Yeah, the best of the
Yeah,
three.
definitely our favorite.
Oh, the other's still listening. Sorry.
Who's your favorite? Yeah.
But like, obviously we all have trials and tribulations, but But in terms of knowing where I've come from, I feel like, yeah, I'm still Jenny from the block. I remember where I came from. What about you, Esther?
I'm pretty clear about where I've come from, but I've probably only started really looking quite recently. So I still have to kind of go case by situation by situation in a sense, because some of my reactions are like if something comes up and I react very badly, I still don't fully understand why sometimes. So I think I'm still kind of like, there's areas where I'm unclear as to why that happens or why do I do that, or and sometimes I think like maybe there's some like blocked out trauma that I have no idea about, but I'm not going to go into. I'm not going to like look too much into that. But yeah, I'm still working on it for sure, I think.
Do you find that when you're married to someone, you see they react in certain ways, and you can see it in their family line, or you can see where it comes from, and they don't? Like, because I'll often look at Esther and I go, I know where you got that from. I can see, I know it, and she'll argue with me, but I know I'm right. She should come around to the fact that that's where it comes from, and then we can actually look at it and deal with it.
But like that's something I find very hard to like. Just I can't just like move on. That reaction will still come up and still come up and still come up. So then I start to think like, what is it? Something deeper, or am I just stunted? Like, why does that not go away? So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you are good at seeing where things come from. Generally.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad, are you guys confident of your perceptions of where you've been?
Yeah.
I think, yes. I think that like we were saying.
Well, hold on. That moment was the perfect description, because Dad was, yep. And now you can see Mom is ramping up. Sorry. That little moment was a perfect representation of who you guys are. Yep.
Not even a full word, just.
Not even. Dad, let me guess. Are you scribbling in the corner of a piece of paper right now?
I do this.
Wow. That's nice art.
Oh, thank you. Oh, talking about art.
No, don't worry. We'll get back. We'll get there. Go for it, Mum. Sorry, I just thought it was too funny.
Tell us what you thought was funny.
The fact that Dad characterized who he is with a half answer, and he's not really paying attention, but he is. He's on autopilot.
This keeps my focus.
But and you then go, and you're about to start this long story, and for him it was like this much, and we can see it. That's what was fun.
Okay. We were in a church once, and this dear lady, she used to do something every single Sunday, the same thing every Sunday. And some people used to get annoyed with her, but her heart was sweet. But as we moved countries and we went to all different places, we realized that one of those ladies was in every single church. And it's an uncanny thing that people will come into your life or into your space, and you look at them and you know just in a second that they are that person that you had to deal with in your past. You know, there's a Betty in every place, and there's a Fred in every place.
Hands up, Harry.
Hands up, Harry.
And the thing is, I think that, and I suppose this might be why old people find it hard to change as well. I'm connecting something else into this. You end up being quite solidified in your understanding of these things. So every time you come across someone who's very chaotic, and then you get done down, or you get used or abused, or you're the victim, and it happens again and it happens again. So eventually someone comes into your face and you think, this is chaotic, and whatever they say, you say, that's nice, have a nice day, and you walk around it. And so you get quite set in your ways, because you understand how each of these different people are. Then I'm just saying that sometimes you don't give people a chance because
you know them.
You've already branded them as something. So maybe you're wrong.
It's possible.
So to answer the question, are you confident about your perception of where you've been?
My perception of where I've been.
Do you know who you are in the past? Where you've come from?
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
That's it. That's the answer.
And the next round of question is, are you confident of your perception of who you are now, like who you are?
Mm.
Because that's the 3 stages, right? Where you've been, who you are, and where you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are?
Not so much. Because sometimes
Great.
and I think, what a grumpy old man. And I
do
promised
too when I look at you.
I promised myself I'd never become one of those
Wow.
grumpy old men. So
He
yeah.
hated grumpy old men. He used to get so upset with grumpy old men. And he said, I never want to be that.
And here I am,
Killing it.
not so grumpy.
What about you, Shane?
Confident that I like it, yeah.
Shane S?
Yeah, I like to see myself with rose-tinted glasses, but I know the truth. So it's like I want to say I really know myself, but if I have to honestly, yeah, I know myself. Yeah, I think. But
I'm not saying are you happy with yourself. I'm saying, are you confident your perception of yourself is correct?
But my perception of myself is always very good. I'm trying to be optimistic.
But are you confident in that perception?
No, not at all. It's not true. That's what I'm saying. If I have to delve deeper, then I know, yeah, this is who I am.
Hmm.
It goes back to the Roman 7. You do what you don't want to do, and you don't do what you. Basically, your life is full of doo-doo.
You don't.
You got it from a podcast. What about you?
Yeah, I've got a pretty good idea of where I am and who I am, but I'm also growing in my perception of that as well, because it's a new, I don't know, I'm changing a lot, and I'm along for the ride basically as well. So it's not a set thing.
Okay, Charlotte?
Yeah, similar to S, I'm quite confident in who I am on a deep level, but at the same time, I am pushing to evolve and to progress, and so in a sense, I'm denying that what I think of myself to try and think more of myself, to try to do more. Jiu-jitsu, for an example, I hate people being on top of me and not being able to breathe, and I'm trying to change that about myself. So I think I've got a good sense of who I am on a very deep level, but more mid-level, I'm trying to change those things and progress, I would say. So no, in those terms.
You know, you can make peace with that.
I think if you make peace and settle too much, you might as well die. Like if you're not getting better, what's the point?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's true.
Bye, Mom.
Checking out.
What about you, Charlotte? So not are you confident? Are you confident in the perception that you have of yourself?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you.
Now,
There's your answer.
it's tricky because for a part that I know I am, and I'm pretty sure that I'm right. Like I'm interested in being a florist, and I'm pretty sure that I should be a florist. But then there are parts that I want to expand. Like I want myself to be that. there are options on the table that I want to explore. And for now, I'm just trying to picture if that's actually what I can do. So there are things that I'm certain of that I will be able to do, but there are things that I'm not sure if I can.
What about instead of doing, what about the things that you are?
Yeah,
Person
that's
you are?
being.
Do you know that person?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
She's quite a simple person. It's easy to know.
Mm.
No, no,
I agree with you. She's very
straight.
she's very straight,
Very
she's very
sweet.
honest, and a beautiful heart. I don't think we need to be more than that.
Beautiful face.
The face is okay.
Thanks.
Lang.
And then the third round of questions.
You
Are you
didn't answer that
confident?
one.
We didn't answer.
Wrong
You
question.
didn't answer that.
Yeah.
For the family, you said.
Well, the third round of questions would be, are you confident where you're going? And I think, let me answer all three in one. The Holy Spirit, Father and Son. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the past, where I've come from. For me, it's a rearview mirror, and I will assess it on a need to know basis. On a, oh, I'm hitting my wall on this, my head on this wall, my wall on this head. And oh, why is this happening? It's not that I'm afraid to, I just don't focus on it a lot. And perhaps that's because I got a good reference, and I think I'm confident. I'm pretty confident of where I've been, where my hangups are, where my strengths are. And if I ever hit a wall over and over again, then I'm not afraid to reassess. I'm very, very good at getting the map out and going, okay, were we there? Was I there? Even though I may be confident, I'm happy to actually, the more confident I am, the more happy I am to assess where I've been or what I thought about a certain thing. So everything's on the table for me. In reference to who I am, I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time on that question. Where I spend most of my time is in the future. I'm thinking about where I want to go more than anything else. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's the appropriate thing for me and who I am and what I'm born and gifted to do. And that's where I spend most of my time, is the future. And if I can't get to the future, then I will assess who I am and make a change or where I've been. That's how I sort of frame things for me. So I will make sure that I discipline the dog really well, because I'm thinking about a son that I haven't had, I'm only going to have in 8 years' time. So I discipline the dog now because of the future. I don't discipline the dog because of now. So we had a helper, as you guys all know, and the helper starts to walk the dog and doing a bad job because the helper doesn't care about the dog as much as I care about my son. So I got rid of the helper. And the son wasn't on the cards for 8 years. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but I think there's some advantages, disadvantages to that. And probably in a team setting, you need some idiot who doesn't care about the past and who doesn't care about now, and will only make changes to the past and to now because of the future. I think.
Probably a good answer as to who you are now.
Yeah.
It's a good example of who you are.
Yeah.
That reminds
So,
sorry.
yeah. No, don't apologize.
That reminds me of the first chapter, I think. It's mentioned about the game you play with yourself, like the today's self and the future self. Whatever you make decision today, it's going to affect the future, like the temporal consequences. That's why we have to sort ourselves like.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I really identified with that specific one in that chapter. What about you guys, Shay and Esther? What about the future? Are you confident in your perception?
Before I answer that question, can I ask you one question, Sean, on the back
Yep.
of that? Do you feel like you miss out on the present because you're so focused on the future?
Good question.
Yeah, I'm conscious of that. And probably the only time I will let the present get in the way of the future is with family. And that's an effort. I will have to remain present in the moment. Most of the time, I'm thinking about the next thing. Most of the time. And I'm only becoming conscious of that in the last 5 to 8 years. Am I realizing that about myself? But I'm always thinking about the next thing, or 10 years or 30 years, or when I'm dead.
It's an uncanny thing because they interview some of the top football managers in the world, like Jose Mourinho. And as soon as he wins his trophy, there's a moment where he smiles, and then the next moment he's thinking about the next year. And that's just how they're wired. And he doesn't know what it is. It's just he's always on that. That's what he lives for. So I think you're one of those, whatever, 10% choleric people who you just go at it. You need a mission.
Caloric.
Yeah.
It's to understand that about me, and the book that really helped me to understand that was The 5 Gears, or The 5 Voices rather, The 5 Voices, has been such a lifesaver, because you hear people talking about living in the present and just enjoy the moment, enjoy the journey. And I've had to learn that, and there's absolute value in that. So I'm not dismissing that. That's something I've had to build into my life. But my default is always the future. And so when I've understood that, it's helped me to address the inadequacies of thinking just about the future, but also to appreciate that that's the lot that I've been given. That's my advantage, and to appreciate that too.
Sorry, what was your question, John?
So are you confident in your perception of where you're going? So not are you happy with where you're going? Are you happy about what that picture is? Are you confident that you've got the right picture?
Yeah, this has been the one thing that Esther and I struggle with a lot, is how we're supposed to do, right? It's been really, because it's like we've been in Hong Kong for what, nearly 13 years, coming up in August.
Wow.
And it's like, is it 13 years?
12.
12, I think.
Well, we've got 13 years of marriage. And we've been here waiting for something to happen. Not passively, but just we're on a mission, and we're looking for,
But what's the mission?
and maybe in the last year we feel a lot more purposeful, but before that it's been a long journey of faith to see. We know we're here for a reason, but
Let's get going.
where we're supposed to go. And yeah, so I'd say for the majority of our marriage, it's been a bone of contention. What are we supposed to do? But I think in the last year, that's become more and more clear.
At the same time, we're very good at being in the present.
We're the present
We're
people.
very happy and very good at enjoying today. Like I would say naturally, that's like thinking about listening to Sean talk about I'm living in the future, I'm living in the future. I've only just recently in my life been better at thinking about, okay, what I do now is going to have this ramification on the future. Not that I've lived like recklessly, but especially concerning children, talking about what you're investing into your children, I've had to really be conscientious of that, like not just living on impulse now or how I'm feeling right now, but being consistent and implementing certain values and things for their future. That's because I don't naturally live in the future. I naturally live or want to live in the present. I like details. I like enjoying the moment. I like the present. So that's kind of a relatively new concept for me. But yeah.
Are we confident in that?
In the present?
No, in the future.
Probably not, because that's the thing. We live very much, like God, show us what to do, show us where to go. So then sometimes the future is kind of unclear. Like you have a knowing or an instinct about where you're headed, but you can't see it clearly, which that's not always a bad, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing necessarily, but that's something, I don't know, maybe, yeah. But yeah, there's been a level of frustration in that area sometimes.
I'm confident the future will be good.
Yeah, and we have some very distinct things that we know will be a part of the future. It's just a matter of when. Yeah, maybe it's just not knowing when exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jay, Charlotte?
I'd say, obviously, I'm not confident in the details of what the future will be, but I'm confident in the ethics that will inform our choices in the future. So I have a low resolution picture of what that will look like. Yes.
And you're confident. You see the confidence. I'm not looking for
No, I'm confident in what
that
will
you got the right
inform
picture.
the ethics of that picture. So I
Yeah.
don't know it's going to be kids and a dog in this house in this country. I don't know the details, but
Yeah.
I'm confident that ethically it'll be informed in such a way that I will be happy with.
Okay. That's good. That's a good answer.
Very good answer.
I answered for you as well. I answered for us.
Mom, Dad?
We're confident of where we're going. Do you know that we've never been confident of, I wouldn't even say not confident. We've never worried about where we're going or what we're going to do or where we're going to land up, because that was never an issue for us. It was never something that we mapped out or planned. We never had a 5-year plan. We never did any of that. And we didn't exactly just float along in life either. We seized every moment we had to do things and accomplish things in the time that we had, because we knew that we would move on. We were never sort of settled. We're not, I think this is probably the most settled we've ever been. And even this time, you know, we know we could up and move on again. I think our confidence in our future was in who we were as people. It was never in what we were doing. Would you agree with that? Do you want to say something?
I agree with that.
You can articulate it better than I can.
Yeah, we never had a 5-year plan. Yeah, it was just we're just moving on and see what opportunities come up and where the doors open. And I mean, you do plan for certain details or things you want to hit, but for the bigger picture, I think we've been surprised sometimes. You know, if we had thought back 2 years ago, this is where we'd be, we would be surprised, you know. So yeah, we've been pretty flexible about the future. Not necessarily a good thing. I think people that plan really well. We do plan, I think, like you were saying, Jane, ethically. If we're going to have children, we're going to have children that are going to make responsible adults. You know, we're not just there to play the game or just discipline them because we're angry or whatever. We're going to do it that way. So those kind of things for the future, but details not so much.
Yeah.
Great.
And so my plan is to leave this earth well.
Yeah.
In victory. And I'm being serious. That's my plan. That's my future plan, is to leave this earth well. Not healthy, just do it well.
So what
So
does
everyone will be happy when you go.
Yeah.
Finally.
You're doing a great
Okay. On that note, I think it's a great end to the podcast.
GG.
We'll see you guys next week.
No, hang on. We've got something else.
No. Oh man, please, I've got to do more editing. Just trust me. Just trust me.
keep this in.
So on that note, it's a great end to the podcast. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. So
You were going. When people say goodbye, you go, you leave.
No, yeah.
I don't know. We have these fake goodbyes. I'm not into fake.
It wasn't fake. That's the end of the podcast. This is
Yeah, but
now
it's not the end of us
podcast.
talking.
Okay, last week.
Bye, guys.
we-
See you later.
Checking out.
So
Last week we ended the